So if you guys have been following the channel, you know that I've been designing a frame. This is still a 3D printed version. The carbon cut flying, all that stuff will come in a future video, but I want to break down what I was thinking whenever I designed this, what all the design considerations were when I made this, and kind of just give you my thought process on what I'm doing and why I did it. And then you can tell me, what you think about that, good, bad, or indifferent. So kind of want to break this down in a couple different areas. We've got like durability, we've got, what components I'm using, and just some overall general considerations as I'm kind of going through this. So let's kind of start with the durability. Number one, weight doesn't matter. If you look at this right here, weight doesn't matter. This thing's going to be chunky, it's going to be heavy, and that's okay with me. I like a heavier quad. I generally like a quad that's a little bit, quote unquote, underpowered for, whatever it is. It works well for my flying style. It works well for how I am on the sticks with throttle. It just helps me overall. So weight doesn't matter to me. And in general, heavier quads can be durable, although you can make them too heavy and make them not as durable depending on design considerations. But in general, weight doesn't matter to me. So with that, all of the pieces here, there are no extraneous cutouts. Every single hole or whatever that's in this is required. The arms, there's 4 holes for the motors, and there's 1 hole in the middle that I utilize for holding this arm bumper on. The top plate, the only holes in the top plate are for the screws. The only holes in the sandwich plate are for screws or to allow screws to pass through. The only holes in the bottom plate are for these screws. There are no extraneous holes in any of this for just weight savings. Like I said, weight doesn't matter to me. Speaking of the holes, every hole is nice and beefy. There's a lot of carbon, or will be carbon. This is PLA. There will be a lot of carbon around each of the holes. So that helps to improve durability. It also allows me to put these washers on here that improve durability as well. For the screws, it makes them more, protects them better, but that's really not the main reason. The main reason here is I want this washer, I want this wide base down here, because when you put pressure on it, that presses the weight, presses, the compression here all around farther out away from the hole, which improves durability. I've been flying for a long time. These are things that I've witnessed break and be compromised. And so that's what I'm doing. And just in general, a washer improves strength and pushes the forces kind of out a bit, which improves durability. The arms, the ends of these arms, they're oversized. You can see the holes are way on the inside, but this arm is way out here. That helps to protect the motor and improves durability from the holes. You got lots of carbon. There'll be lots of carbon around the edge of this here. This protrudes way out here to kind of protect the motor in crashes. Although, you're flying like this, you're more likely to still hit these motors. So lower motors are better in general, but the end sticking out here, all around here, and having plenty of carbon around here will protect the motor quite a bit. And then of course with the TP on there, protects the arm even more. Speaking of the arms, they're universal. I can take any one of these arms and put it anywhere else. I don't want to have all kinds of different versions of arms whenever, if they break, and eventually they probably will break. But the goal is to make those easy to change out, so I don't have to worry about, which one goes where. I've seen frames where they have arms that are specific to either the front or the back, or, whatever. And I didn't want that. I want universal arms. Also, I want the arms to be easy to remove. 2 screws, in this case, 2 screws and the washer, 2 washers on the front. And then on the back, there's 2 screws, and there's 1 nut on the back here, and then the other one goes into the standoff. And then you take it out. If you notice, there's these 4 holes here in the middle. These go through to the stack, but these go through, there's a brace in between all these arms. There's an octagonal brace in the middle. The arms kind of go up against, that gives additional strength inside of there, but allows me to remove the arm and keep the arm from going all the way into the stack screws, which helps with vibrations, that sort of thing. So also speaking of arms, X. X frame. I've flown a lot of different frames. In general, they all fly really well, and there's not that big of a difference in arm placement, although there is a little bit of difference. And I generally like the X frame. The only thing I don't like about the X frame is generally you end up with props in view. And in this case, there'll still be props in view just ever so slightly. The tips of the props will show up here. If you use 3.5 inch, then a little bit more props will show, than with the 3-inch props that I'm going to use. But that's a trade-off that I'll make for the way that it flies. X frames, in my opinion, fly better than squished X frames. They fly better than dead cat frames. They fly better than H. H is basically the squished X. So the X layout makes it fly a lot better, keeps everything nice and even, everything nice but centered. I like that a whole lot better. Also, one last thing on the arms, the motors, 12x12 mounting. That's the only holes that's in there. There's no slots. There's no smaller motors. There's no bigger motors. 12x12 mounting. That's all that I need. The motors that I'm going to use, they're all 12x12. I don't need anything smaller. I don't need anything bigger. So again, that's what I'm, no unnecessary holes. I don't need options. This is the only option I got. If I ever need to have different hole pattern, I will make a different arm since it's my frame. I can design what I want. So for these arms, 12x12. That's what I'm going with. The stack, the holes for the stack, 20x20. Don't need 30x30. This is a 3-inch, 3.5-inch. 20x20 works well for me. Also, notice how tight this is. This is 20 millimeter standoffs here. This is as tight as I can get it and still fit the 03. That was another consideration. I want to make sure that the 03 fit, and 20x20 stack. In this case here, it's basically all in one. So I got plenty of room in there. You could fit a stack in there if you wanted to. I've got these little rubber standoffs up under that kind of provide some vibration dampening, which I like. Kind of puts the FC there in a nice, more protected way, isolates a little bit more from vibrations, which I like. Speaking of the FC and protection, the top plates and the bottom plates are oversized. That gets the FC and the ESC kind of snugged away in there, keeps it away from getting hit by branches or whatever, or debris or whatever, kind of keeps it snugged in there, which is nice. Additional protection, that's what I'm all about. This ain't got to be as durable as I can make it. So I'm going with that. I've blown a lot of frames where the ESC or the FC kind of stuck out a little bit, and they generally work okay, but man, there's times when stuff gets in there and damages things, and this helps to keep that from happening because it's tucked away inside of there. Like I said, 20 millimeter standoffs. This is as short as I can possibly make them and still fit the 03, which was another consideration. Make sure the 03 fits in there. The 04 will probably fit with a different mount design, but I'm not flying the 04, so I don't care. And if I need to make a change, I can do that. Again, my frame, I can make those changes. Camera, I want to protect this thing. These things are expensive, and I want to protect them all around as well as front impacts. So we've got some little parts that stick out, protrude out here, that protects the lens a bit. You could also fit possibly if I'll redesign this just slightly, you could probably fit a ND filter or a clear, piece on there, possibly if I redesign that, but I don't think they'll work on there currently. But this here should provide sufficient protection in the front, as good as I can possibly get. And then all around, the camera's protected. It's not going to get hit from anywhere. And it's a fixed angle. I don't need different angles. And I don't know how many times I've crashed and had the angle change. And that changes how the thing flies. Changes how you fly it. And even minor changes that you may not even notice, particularly if you don't have props in view, you wouldn't even notice possibly till you start flying. You're like, why is this thing flying weird? And it's because the camera angle got adjusted slightly in a crash. Sometimes that happens. And I don't want that to happen. I want my camera to stay the same, exactly where it is. Helps me for repetitive flying, helps me to keep things working like I want and flying like I want. And I don't have to adjust my style or any of that kind of stuff. And, it helps improve your flying. A couple other things that I want to talk about on here. There are no press nuts. These are all nuts on top there. I considered doing press nuts, and I don't have a problem with press nuts per se. They definitely allow you to do some things with your design that you can't do whenever you have nuts. But on the downside, they get stripped. and then they're a pain to fix. You got to like replace the arm generally because the press nut won't bite into it because it's stripped out. And then you have to replace the arm or whatever piece the press nut went into, and then you got to put the press nut back in. That in and of itself can be an ordeal. There's some easy ways of doing it, but sometimes you just still mess it up and get it wrong. And I just didn't want to deal with that, so I decided no press nuts. I'm gonna go with the nuts. They were tried and true on my old Alien frames, the Martian clone that I used to use, and they work well, and they provide a great bit of durability, and they're super simple to change. So that's what I went with. One last thing, the power lead coming out here. I like the frames that protect the power lead like inside of it. Like the little matey that I had, it had a little cut here, and I used that, and that was great. The only downside of that was when I went to take the top plate off, because I had to run the power lead through the middle of the plate. The top plate had to stay on there unless I wanted to desolder my power lead, which I didn't want to do. So then it's kind of come in the way. This way, the power lead is protected. It's in the middle here, comes through, but I can take the top plate off and the power lead is just fine and dandy and it doesn't get in the way. So I can take the top plate completely off, still access everything, and the power lead is still protected. So that's my thoughts on what I'm doing. There's a lot of CPU on here. I may or may not keep this piece here. I don't know yet. I'm not sure what I want to do for this just yet. I do like it because it gives me a place to put the strap, run through there, snug it up there, and kind of keep it in place so it doesn't slide around. I've had that issue before. And also keeps the strap from getting cut on the carbon corners. You know, you can kind of round those corners, but still yet it wears on that carbon there. And being on TPU is not going to wear on that. So that's my design considerations when I did this thing here. Let me know what your thoughts are down there. You know, good, bad, whatever. You know, I'm open to suggestions. I'm probably not going to change anything, but you know, I like to see what other people are thinking, what their ideas are. You know, I like to have conversations, even if I don't change my mind. I love having the conversations, seeing what people are thinking. So yeah, let me know. I'm not afraid to defend my position, and I'm not afraid when I'm wrong, and I'll admit it when I'm wrong. I may not change my mind, but I'll admit it when I'm wrong. Anyways, you guys have a great day. Hope you and have a wonderful day and you get out to fly a little bit. I'm gonna be flying soon. I'm gonna be getting this thing cut out of carbon here, probably within the next week or so, I think. And we're gonna have a video on going through that and building it and putting it all together and then flying it. That's fun. I'm looking forward to. Oh, and if you haven't yet, go vote in the poll for the name of this thing. Currently, the Stace Invader, I think, is the one that's leading, and then there's Hummingbird and SpaceX. So, you know, let me know which of the 4 options that you want to go with for the name on this thing. That's going to be the name of it. You guys are going to help me name this thing. So, and I'm going to stick with it. Whatever it is, that's going to be the name. I don't care. There's been other options in there that I like better than the 4 that are out, although I do like the 4 that we have. There's been some others that I like better, but that's okay. I'm going to let you guys pick because they really don't matter to me. You know, I just want to fly and have fun. You guys have a great day. Never stop flying, and I'll see you in the next one.